Good day, everybody. Attorney Greg Lake here. Welcome to the Entheogenic Esquire podcast and YouTube channel. As indicated on the thumbnail and the description, we're going to be really wrapping up what I consider to be kind of like a week-long sort of series, really focusing in on the essentially the crime scene, right in and around where Charlie Kirk was sitting. On that fateful day, September 10th, 2025. My previous videos have been a pretty in-depth analysis going back through the video, looking at how the police and other officials and Terrell Farnsworth were behaving in and around the crime scene in the immediate, more or less the immediate aftermath of the incident. Okay. And so tonight, though, we're going to finish it off by really focusing on Mr. Terrell Farnsworth and his behavior, with particular emphasis on the video footage that we've seen, where he's obviously grabbing SD cards, things of that nature. To date, though, I haven't really focused on kind of the public evidence or presentation after that event. Obviously, Candace had a series on Cameragate. There was another TPUSA live I have a little portion of where they're talking about. And so there's a few other, public videos, public statements, not from Terrell Farnsworth, but in and around Terrell Farnsworth, kind of on both sides. Some parties attempting to justify what he did. Some people really calling it into question. And so tonight's going to be kind of a full survey timeline of Terrell Farnsworth, what happened. Then we're going to look at the videos in and around, the statements on the various sides. And then we're going to look at the law. And then at the end of it, we're going to have a discussion about, what does this appear like when we look at it in terms of the tampering with evidence statute in the state of Utah. Now, in all fairness, I'm not here to try to convict Terrell Farnsworth in the court of public opinion. I am courting the public opinion tonight in the sense that I'm just trying to serve as a facilitator to get citizens the evidence that that's out there, what we know, what we don't. Hello, Rick. And, ultimately let y'all make the call. I think without having Terrell's testimony or speaking with him directly, I think it's a little premature-ish in a sense for many people to be drawing conclusions per se, but that's going to be completely up to you. Obviously, in a court of law, if Terrell, just in a hypothetical, not saying he should be charged necessarily, but if he were, he would have the right to invoke his Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. So let's remember that. In those instances, obviously this evidence, the video, stuff like that would be what a potential jury would be looking at. And let's be real, the reason why I'm even going into this, for a number of reasons, and in a sense tonight is also going to be educational in a way. A lot of people are concerned, okay? And I get it. I was too as an attorney, and I don't do a ton of criminal defense, or, not 100% into crime scene processing, things of that nature. But over the last week, I whipped out the DOJ handbook. I've been looking at videos on crime scene processing, these things, comparing to what we see with a specific emphasis on Terrell and taking the cards and the camera, which is clearly been caught on video. We're going to see again through Life is Driving. We're going to do a kind of a more punctuated review of the Life is Driving, mostly for timeline purposes. And then a lot of our video viewing tonight will really be focused on, the videos in and around people making statements for or against what happened there. Tonight is the first night I'm using StreamYard. Everything's been pretty smooth so far with StreamYard, but anyway, I just want to let y'all know, just in case we do experience technical difficulties, I do apologize. We are slowly moving to equipment upgrades, things of that nature. I should have an Ethernet cable coming in here soon where I can plug directly into my modem. And so again, if there are technical difficulties, please excuse me. I will make it up one way or another through a summary video, whatever that might be. So anyways, with that being said, one thing I want to say is, Terrell Farnsworth, when we think about, the evidence that we have from that day, there seems like he had many faces, right? Many faces for Terrell Farnsworth that day. And that's just my opinion. We go from immediately after, before the incident, right? He seems like he's trying to work hard, and for those who might not be super familiar, Terrell Farnsworth, from my understanding, is an individual who does the, digital media work, audio visual for TPUSA. Obviously, him and I think one other gentleman who was helping him were there that day. Clearly in view pretty much for all the video we see, both before and after the incident, right? And so after the incident happened, and we'll see this in a minute, Terrell goes and has the distraught friend look going, okay? So, we'll see that he takes the selfie video, and Charlie's dead. He somehow knew Charlie was dead before everyone else did, or at least he expressed his belief, if that's what it was, that Charlie was dead. And then from there, depending on who you ask, when we go to the part where he's taking cameras, SD cards, is he acting in a role trying to protect the students from terrorist attacks? So we'll see. And if some of y'all saw my short from last night, obviously there are commentators out there that are claiming that this move was to protect students from a potential terrorist attack. Okay. And then some people might look at the way that Terrell Farnsworth moves around that crime scene and think, man, is this individual like a newly deputized officer or some undercover officer working for law enforcement that we're just not aware of? Again, I don't know that. That's speculation. I'm just kind of musing on my impressions whenever I see the video, thinking about these different faces, different roles. It seems like Terrell Farnsworth was kind of wearing and acting in capacity that day, right? And then it's like, was he on some kind of mission? I mean, especially afterwards, right? When we see him, as we'll see, pop back up at the crime scene, like, was he on a mission? And was this, if so, was it carefully coordinated? What's going on here? Okay. And ultimately y'all will be the judge of that. I'm just going to try to facilitate giving my viewers here as much of the information as I've found as possible. So that way we can just make an assessment, because ultimately I think it's fair to say, and I meant to tie this earlier, but looking at the DOJ manual, knowing what we know from our crime scene specialist hats, watching all these crime scene investigation shows, most people think and are very concerned about what happened that day in and around the Charlie Kirk crime scene. I know I surely am. And, that concern obviously has been very much confounded by the fact that the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, who is accused of ending Charlie Kirk's life, is potentially facing the death penalty, right? And so, when we go back to that day, we have this alleged gunshot, okay? Students and bystanders are going crazy. Those close to Charlie that day, and I'm talking about everyone from his security and other personnel in and around him, one, tackle him, right? So that was like the first thing they went, bam, they tackled him, then they carried him off to this SUV in the back. I want to say Barron calculated it to be roughly 19 seconds between the time where he hit the ground and then is carted off to the SUV. And then we have Terrell Farnsworth, right, out there posting selfies in the back. Mikey McCoy is walking around on the phone. Various offerings for why all this have been offered. I'm not going to toggle through all those. But in any event, when Terrell Farnsworth returns to the scene in plain view, right? And we're going to see it again in plain view of police officers. Okay. Police officers, both uniformed and plainclothes police officers, starts grabbing evidence, starts trampling around the crime scene. Things that we learned earlier this week, looking at the DOJ manual for crime scene processing, is not in accord with normal process and procedures in those regards. Okay. I'm concerned. Citizens are concerned. And I think, just my view, right? I think videos like this are important because ultimately it's a teaching opportunity for people to understand that this type of behavior in most normal cases is completely unacceptable. Okay. So if you're in and around a crime scene, whether you own property in that crime scene or not, if you are not official law enforcement, actually, and not just law enforcement tasked with processing that scene, holding down the perimeter, you should not touch anything in and around that crime scene until you are authorized to do so by a law enforcement official tasked with handling that element, right, of the investigation. So what are the breakdowns that we saw, right? So we noted in my prior videos this week some breakdowns of normal procedure and process in crime scenes. So one, we saw that, they're trying to secure a perimeter, and looks like some effort to secure a perimeter in and around the Charlie Kirk crime scene. They obviously did a much better job, securing the perimeter and investigating up top at the roof where the government is alleging that Tyler Robinson took the shot from. They did a really good job. They got a lot of suited people up there really looking deep into everything that was going on top of that roof. Now, down at what I would consider really the epicenter of the crime scene, where Charlie Kirk was sitting, that really, really broke down. Okay. And so even though there was an effort made to secure a perimeter, securing it and holding it down, we saw a major breakdown in that. Okay. And we're going to be reviewing some of the videos. So if you're not really sure what I'm talking about right now, you'll have a chance to see it in just a second. Securing and documenting evidence, right? So it's like we see Terrell grabbing evidence, as far as I can tell, taking off with it. These things should have been secured and they should have been documented, right? They should have been secured and documented in a very specific way. We see none of that happening. All right. So that's another breakdown. Documenting people. So in normal police procedure, right, we learned this week that once that secure perimeter is established, it needs to be documented, everyone coming in and coming out of that crime scene. Okay. We saw none of that. Evidence removal, right? We see not only Terrell Farnsworth grabbing the camera and what looks to be taking the SD cards out, it seems that he actually removed them from the crime scene. And when we get to, looking at what Candace did about the Cameragate scandal, right, we get the notion that, yes, Terrell did indeed leave that day with this evidence, right? Right. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that video facing directly at and behind an individual in Charlie's position during that incident is going to be highly material and relevant evidence and it could go either way. It could have been state or defense in this instance. But, as we learned in other videos too, right, is that it creates an automatic authentication issue, getting this evidence admitted, and automatically starts to undercut its weight if it is admitted, because it was removed not in accord with police procedure, making a solid chain of custody for those pieces of evidence, namely the camera from behind with the SD cards. And then we also see the SD card being removed from the front camera. And one more thing, we also learned, and I take that back, I didn't play this in one of my prior videos, but I'll just let you know, I watched another, like an expert on collecting digital evidence. And yeah, they say that, immediately with cameras, electronics that are recording these events, you are not to turn them off. You are not to turn them on. They are supposed to be very specifically processed because, if something's on and you go and just cut it off, well, you might have deleted everything that was recorded up to that point, right? And electronics work differently, right? So I think it's easy to understand why that is. And then evidence destruction, okay? Even forensic evidence, right? I mean, I know there's been some controversy about blood in the scene. We see at least some videos. I know it's kind of crazy. We see some videos of Charlie where there's definitely blood. So you would presume it's on the ground. And we all know crime scene technicians should be there in hazmat suits, trying to collect as much of, especially what I'll call, for lack of a better term, like transient evidence, or evidence that, it starts being diminished immediately, right? So it's kind of like blood. If it rains, it starts to dry, it starts to degrade. So these things need to be, acted upon ASAP. And, despite having the UVU police chief right there, he was good to check the mic, right, to make sure that mic that Charlie had wasn't hot, and sets it down and then just walks straight off. And here comes Terrell and crew doing what just seems to me, my opinion, looking at the video, pretty much just whatever the hell they want to. So again, very, very interesting. And so what are the aggravating factors? And I've already mentioned some of these, but again, this happened right in front of armed police officers, both uniformed and plainclothes. The sole focus on the rooftop. And this is one thing that really just kind of grinds my gears about this investigation period, is that, it seems the efforts placed on getting all the evidence at the rooftop secured, right? And that forms mostly the basis of the information on file. Again, right now, it's not an indictment, it's an information on file. The prosecutor in Utah County has filed. And so when we look at that, it's really focused, at least forensically, on the evidence that was allegedly gathered from that rooftop where Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, I showed a picture, all the higher up suits, man, they're really up there spending a lot of time analyzing that rooftop. Okay. The death penalty case, right? That's and when I say aggravating factor, I mean aggravating in the sense that, people get concerned because of these factors. And I did another video about a week ago covering the death penalty in Utah. Okay. So if it wasn't enough already that Tyler Robinson was facing the death penalty, the Utah legislature, February 4th of this year, are presenting in the House, in the legislature in Utah, a bill that would expedite the death penalty process, make it appeal proof, okay, in favor of the state, and also make it more difficult for defendants to challenge assessments, rulings, determinations as to their competency, right? And so it's this rush to the death penalty in a case that we see and have a very good feeling. I do in my gut. I would imagine some of y'all share that how this crime scene was handled seems to me like there was some effort to, destroy, alter, or get rid of evidence that would be exculpatory for Tyler Robinson, meaning evidence that would tend to show his innocence, right? And which all of this culminated, right? I know we're focused on Terrell Farnsworth, but really, ladies and gentlemen, this all culminated in the actual paving over of the crime scene, right? Where Charlie Kirk sat. And so, man, it's been kind of rough watching all this, thinking, we do have due process rights in this country and we have right to a fair trial. I've been really jogging my brain since I became aware of Cameragate and these issues with the evidence collection on how that's going to be a thing, right? How that's going to be a real thing. Tyler Robinson receiving a fair trial, knowing what we know from direct video proof of how this crime scene was treated. Okay. So again, it's just a lot of aggravating factors, play into why I'm doing this video tonight, and just feeling, people's expressing their frustration. A lot of people feel helpless and hopeless, right? Because if they can do this in this crime scene of such a high profile case, man, is there any crime scene in this country that isn't going to be subject moving forward to this type of degradation and disrespect? And really, ultimately, to the extent that, Charlie's not with us anymore, it's really disrespectful to Charlie in the sense that, if Tyler Robinson is found not to be the one who committed this crime, well, if the additional evidence needed could have come from where the crime scene was paved over, well, what does that look like? Now, where does that leave us at the end of that road, right? Again, we might not ever figure out who did this. I sure hope we do, right? But the fact is that there very well is probably evidence that we don't have anymore that, thanks to them. And that could hamper us ever figuring out what happened to Charlie Kirk. So anyways, and last but not least, the defense is seeking to keep these proceedings private. Let me say it again. The defense is seeking to keep these proceedings private. And who knows, if the Utah legislature has it their way, these proceedings will be private. And then as soon as it's all over the trial, they're going to jump straight in. No delay, right? Because they're amending the death penalty statute where it immediately jumps straight into the death penalty. Okay. So we very well, if things go how the defense and how the Utah legislature want them to go right now, we might very well be seeing that situation. And hey, if they're willing to keep the guilt and innocent phase of this trial under wraps, who say they wouldn't keep the death penalty sentencing phase under wraps? And so, I hope videos like this and some of the other very courageous work that other content creators, attorneys, Barron, and others are doing, I hope this helps, make that not the case, right? And at this juncture, it's hard to tell what effect it's going to have because nothing's really made sense. And, you think one thing's going to happen based upon an assessment of circumstances, and then totally the opposite. So again, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but we're going to do everything we can on this channel for sure to publish content, do investigation, make analysis, to hopefully encourage that at the very least this be an open and full and fair procedure to the extent that it can at this juncture. All right, so with that being said, we're going to jump in now and start looking again at the evidence. And again, I apologize to those people who, let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Brett. I apologize to the people who've been watching my videos this week. It's going to be at least initially some review of some of the Life is Driving video that we have previously looked at. So I do apologize. It'll be a lot shorter than the other videos, obviously that segment, but most of it's going to be focused on stuff we haven't viewed on a recorded video with me, namely like Candace Owens and the other people that are out here in the public talking in and around this situation. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to adjust my mic real quick. I'm going to bring up. All right. So again, Life is Driving video. At first is just the gunshot, okay, or the alleged gunshot, might I say. We're going to see that, and then we're going to fast forward going where Adam, and thank you, Adam, from Life is Driving again for this video. We're going to go right into, when he shows up down there at the tent. So let's go. Let me make sure my volume here is going to be good for y'all. Okay.
See the get closer? Are they like restricting you guys up here or what?
Nah, it's just crowded.
It's just there's just so much stuff.
Before we had a flag and we had it, so it's positioned above the tent, so it would be in the camera. And it just moves.
What was that?
Okay, sorry about that, y'all. I think it peaked out for a second. But anyways, and I hope it doesn't do that. Again, I'm working on getting all this squared away. But anyways, I'm trying to keep an exact timeline tonight as we go through this video for the purpose of when we get to the end and we look at Utah's tampering with evidence statute. I think that many might find the timeline upon which this happens potentially relevant to assessing Mr. Farnsworth intent. Okay. So again, maybe not, but I feel for some, it might be a relevant factor for you in internalizing, assessing these things. So, all right.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
All right. So we got the shot again. I'm going to keep my time here. So that's 1910 on this video when the shot occurred. And then we're going to speed it up here. I have my timestamps. Going to be 22:45. Okay. And so this right here, what we're about to see is obviously when Adam from Life is Driving is coming right up to the tent. Okay. And I'll probably stop it a few times here and there to point out, things that will be relevant for us when we get to the end here. So just please be patient. And so right here, I'm almost 100% sure this is Terrell Farnsworth. And so, and I meant to do this. So right after the shot, just for reference, we're going to play real quick. Let's do this. I'm going to get another video. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're going to play real quick because I just want to, again, with the timeline, right? We just saw the shot from Adam from Life is Driving. Now, I went a little bit too far and I wanted to go straight from there into this video where Terrell does the after the shot selfie pic behind. But just disregard that. I just pointed them out in this other video. Okay, so hold on. Let me share here. Here we go. Okay, so this is Candace, showing and discussing real quick Terrell's selfie video.
And so he takes out his phone and he begins recording himself. It's a selfie video. Takes a video of himself. So let's watch that video.
They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. No. They just shot Charlie.
Pretty dramatic effect.
He's dead.
He's dead.
God help him.
God help him. Okay, so anyways, and again, let me just restate, why I showed you that video. Okay, is because at the end of this, we're going to be asked when we look at the statute, okay, whether Terrell was knowingly or intentionally doing some things. Okay, and so I just want to show, I guess, that there was a shot. He immediately ran back. Okay, and so we were seeing Charlie being taken to the SUV. Barron, to the best of my recollection, had pinned that down to 19 seconds from the time Charlie fell to the ground, or was tackled to the ground, might I say, being picked up. 19 seconds to start being, shuttled out to the SUV, as we just saw. So this video taken by Terrell Farnsworth, we can assume is going to be probably somewhere between 19 and 30 seconds after this event occurred. Okay. So now we'll go back to Life is Driving's video and get back to exactly what I was saying. So give me just a second. And thank y'all for being patient. Again, I'm learning the ropes here with StreamYard, and I do like it. So anyways, there we go. All right, back to where we were. Okay, so now what I was saying is here we are. So this right here indicates about 3 minutes and 45 seconds, or 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes 45 seconds after the shot. Okay, we saw Terrell about 30 seconds afterwards doing the video we just watched, expressing it seems to be some concern, or maybe some brief grief, stating that Charlie's dead, that he's been shot. Okay, and so here we are now. Again, I'm just guessing here, ladies and gentlemen, based upon what he's wearing that day. I think this is Terrell Farnsworth right here, and it looks like he's talking to Butch Hibbs. Okay. But anyways, appearing back on the scene about 3 minutes, 45 seconds afterwards. Okay. And, you'll be the judge. To me, he looks like he's and we'll get some closer look up from him. It looks like he's doing a little bit better here, a little bit better than he was about 30 seconds after the event. 3 minutes seems like he's getting there. And as just real quick review, we see them, they're starting to establish some kind of perimeter. Okay. There seems to be some kind of perimeter being established. But as we've also seen, and you'll see some more tonight, it's a little porous. Their perimeter here is a little porous. It's got a lot of breathing room there. Yeah, this perimeter has a lot of breathing room to it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. Here we see. Okay. So and to the best of my information that I've been able to gather, I can't confirm this 100%, but this gentleman here, this uniformed police officer, at least half uniformed, I guess you could say, from my understanding, that's the UVU police chief. Okay. And when we looked at the manual, it basically indicates that the first responding officer, okay, obviously it doesn't really matter which officer is the first one on the scene. You can't really ever predict that per se, but the responsibility is to completely lock down and secure the crime scene. Okay. Now look what we see here. Okay. And again, under the manual, and I've had another former retired police officer's been emailing back and forth with me who stated his professional opinion. This picking up what I believe to be Charlie's microphone, or just because it's a microphone here at the crime scene, pretty improper, right? Pretty improper. I think most people understand that, you know, crime scene analysis is very meticulous. Okay, very meticulous and nuanced in many ways, right? And so, moving stuff even the slightest, absent being a technician, processing, documenting, not something you're supposed to be doing. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Here we see Terrell Farnsworth right here coming back. And so as we watch this, right, please really focus in on him, okay? Because ultimately, again, when we get to the end, we talk about the statute. We might have to, you know, going to be asked to assess what you believe his intentions were in this, because it is relevant to the tampering with evidence statute. And so really a lot of the only information we have now is actually watching him move around and seeing what we can gauge from that, okay? And you're going to be the judge. So let's go. And okay, so here we go. Watch him. As you'll see, as many people have already seen, he looks around and stuff. And so just ask yourself what you think about this. I honestly also believe that that was Charlie's chair, okay, that Charlie was sitting in whenever this incident occurred and he was tackled, okay? Again, I don't think it takes a 20-year veteran crime scene technician to understand that it was probably be best case scenario to leave that chair exactly where it was, you know? So anyways, we'll keep going. So obviously we see Terrell again. We didn't, his VIA didn't catch him actually putting his hands and bringing it down, but we did get to see where he was standing on the chair right there by it, looking right at it, looking around before he got up there to look right at it. And now it's gone. And as we can see, he's approaching what looks to be the camera bag, I think, sitting on the other side. And keep going. And now watch this too. After he what appears to grab the SD cards out of the camera, and I was watching this earlier, it looks to me like there's some kind of handoff between Terrell to the other gentleman that was working with him. Okay. And it almost looks like Terrell puts it maybe in this gentleman's hat or some type of handoff. And on the way walking out, he puts the hat on. I don't know that for sure. It's just what it looks like to me. You can be the judge. Again, it's just speculation on my part. But again, that's the way when I'm thinking about his or and this other gentleman's intention, seeing this behind the tent, whatever they're doing factors into my decision-making process. Okay. Looks like he just took that SD card out, in my opinion. And now they're back here behind it, right? It almost looks like a handoff to me. So again, I don't know. And maybe I was speaking a little bit out of it, saying with the hat. I was watching it earlier and thought that. But anyways, it seems to me like there might have been a handoff there. Not that that's ultimately consequential. Just to me, them meeting up like that behind the tent, strikes me just a little odd what they were doing. But anyways, okay, so that's the first shot, right? So that's the first time that Terrell takes a camera and an SD card, okay? And I don't hear a lot of people speaking about this, but in a second, we're going to see he also takes the front camera, right? And I think Candace might have mentioned it, but let's also watch that, because in this context too, as we'll see, when he goes for the front one, there is some kind of conversation back and forth with these, what I believe to be plainclothes police officers. And so again, factor that into what you might believe his intention is when we get to the back end. Okay. And so we're going to, let's see. Okay. All right. So here's the front camera, and this is going to be, obviously we're a little bit ways away, but just keep your eyes peeled right here where this front camera is. You'll be able to see Terrell come and grab this card as well. Okay, so we see there's some kind of exchange here. And to be honest, I'm really pointing this out because in Tyler's defense, to be quite honest with you, he might later say, hey, I spoke with this gentleman who I believe to be the officer in charge who gave me authority to, or told me to take this, right? So that could really change the analysis on the back end. So I want to be fair to Terrell in this. And so that's why I wanted to point that out specifically, okay? And again, just so we're clear, he's right there at the camera. We don't have a close-up of seeing it as clearly as we were able to kind of see him fumbling with the SD cards with the other camera. But I have not heard anyone state otherwise that this is not what is occurring right here at this point in time. Yeah. Okay, so that's it, right? So now and just to recap where we are at now in terms of the evidence we've reviewed, we obviously saw the shot take place. We saw approximately 30 seconds after the shot was taken, the alleged shot was taken, might I say, Terrell Farnsworth went behind the corner there and took his selfie video where he proclaimed that, hey, Charlie's dead. He's been shot. God bless him. And expressed what seemed to be some type of grief in the moment. And then we saw it was approximately 3 minutes and 30 seconds later. Here he is now, and I take that back, 3 minutes and 30 seconds after the event, Charlie's, the alleged shot. Now he's back up near the tent, and not too long after that, we see him start going for these SD cards. Okay. And then after the first one was removed, the camera and SD card, I think there was maybe a 2 to 3 minute window there. And then we see Terrell come back. He has some type of very brief exchange with one of the individuals, I believe is a plainclothes police officer. And then he removes the front SD card from the front camera. And then off screen. Now there's other bits in here where he's here, but we're not going to worry about that for now. I think we've seen enough. And so now we're going to switch over to seeing again. We're going to look at some of Candace's Cameragate video. We're going to look at a piece that from The Wire made a video that discusses, Terrell doing this, and they offer again this terrorist saving everybody from a terrorist plot excuse. And so we're going to look at some of this extraneous evidence, contextualize, and really a lot of it's to be fair to him because there's been quite a few, as we'll see, come out and speak in his defense, whether, as we'll see, Andrea Burkhart with Paramount Tactical talks about it. TPUSA had a live stream where they discussed it and kind of chimed in on his reasoning. And obviously in Candace's episode, she also offers some statements made by Terrell to her as far as why he did it. And we're going to take all that to the back end, look at the statute, and we're going to start asking some questions. Okay. We're going to start asking some questions. So here we go. Going to remove this. Sorry, y'all. Let me see real quick. Which one did I not share? I'm sorry, y'all. I did a Baron. Man, I did a Baron. Oh, my God. Ugh. I apologize. I've been trying to. Sorry, y'all. So let's see. What did I share? I think I shared all the way through. Let's see. I'm trying to think where I went. Did y'all get to see the Candace? I think I shared the Candace. So I think it's when I came back to show the video after Candace. Okay, here we go. My bad, y'all. I do apologize. Let's go back real quick. Good thing is I've got the timestamps done up, so we can 20. All right, we'll just share it from here.
Hey, everybody clear out.
Someone here.
Sorry, y'all. Hey, I did it, and I've sat there and watched Baron how many times and said, "Oh, I'll never do that. I'll be right on top of it." Anyways, and I pointed this out before we went to the Candace. You know, we saw him appear here roughly 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes, 45 seconds after the lead shot. Okay.
We have multiple eyewitnesses saying that Charlie Kirk has been shot in the neck and that they saw blood spray.
So sorry. So sorry. That helped broke the ice a little bit, though. I do feel a little more comfortable after that. It's weird, isn't it? I feel a little more vulnerable now. In a good way. Oh, you're good, Susan.
I'm getting out of here.
Good to see you. I'll be back live tomorrow and Sunday. So, okay. And so I think y'all might not have seen this either. So again, I pointed out here, this is who I believe to be the chief of police. And, you know, again, doing this under normal crime scene procedure. Yeah. It just makes you wonder at what level is this malfeasance. I guess I'll leave it at that. At what level in depth does this malfeasance go?
Not fireworks.
Oh, Butch, there goes our buddy Butch. And real quick, I guess this is relevant too, so we can point this out this time. When the officer, the chief of police, walks by, you can hear him say, "Hey, we need to cordon off this area," right? So here we are, you know, about almost 6 minutes after the event. And here goes the chief of police finally saying, "Hey, I think we need to cordon off the area," as we have these two right here doing what they're about to do.
This area. Should we cordon off this
Yeah. Mr. Hibbs. Mr. Hibbs. One thing I want to share with y'all, you know, when I was growing up, my mom said, you know, Greg, you either be good or be good at it, right? Like either do good, or if you're not, you better be good at not doing good. And so I just wanted to plant that in your mind too, as we're watching this right here. And that's not to insinuate anything, just wanted to add that anecdote, or what I say, anecdote, or words of wisdom, might I say. Let's see. Okay.
Safety team is here. I just heard them say the active shooter, Charlie Kirk, has been shot.
Again, I believe that to be Charlie's chair. Here we see Terrell up here grabbing the camera. And yeah, let's keep going.
Charlie Kirk got hit, is what the security detail just said.
And there's just a lot wrong with all that that's going on too, just so y'all know. So right now, right, we see Terrell with the camera, and it looks like he's opening some slot. Again, I think drawing out the SD cards. And in fairness to us, I think Terrell's pretty much admitted as much. And we'll listen to Candace here in a minute. And so again, because Terrell kind of like seems like with SD cards, they say he kind of like takes them here, almost like under his phone, and then turns in the direction behind the tent. And then the gentleman with him, acted like he was for a second kind of walking out of there and then turns back real quick towards Terrell. And that's why I think that there was some kind of handoff or exchange there. And again, well, why would that be relevant? For me personally, when I'm thinking about Terrell's intent in all this, why would you, feel the need to do some type of like quick jut in and possibly a handoff? Just my perception, just my opinion. Okay.
My son just messaged me and says that Charlie Kirk.
You need to leave. Yes, sir.
Now, quick.
Get him out. Hey, you go.
And to hear them saying that, oh, he needs to leave, quick, as you're allowing these other things to occur, that really upsets me a little bit. Sorry about that. It does. And I just want to let y'all know that, like, I don't like that. Like you're letting all these other people do as they please here. And Adam, who's sitting here trying to document something extremely important. And man, this video that he got is just invaluable in terms of analyzing specifically Tyler Robinson's ability to receive full and fair due process, right? So thanks to Adam. I hate that he was told that. Again, down here, okay, and I know y'all didn't see the video, so here we go. Down here is the front camera, okay? We're going to see in just 1 second, Terrell come up. He's going to have a little small conversation with this gentleman in the light blue shirt, who I believe to be a plainclothes UVU police officer. And then he's going to grab the front SD card, okay?
Hello? You called out university.
There he is. Okay, so you see the exchange. He just had this small exchange with this guy, and I'm sorry we're having to do this again. Small exchange with this guy right here in the light blue shirt. So, I don't know if he's asking permission or what he's doing there. But again, even if he would have been asking permission under the, very long and well-established police crime scene processing and procedures, should have been no, absolutely not. Yet, let's see what we see. Here he goes. There he is. Right in front of him. Right in front of the police. Look at him. All these police officers. Right there.
The guy who was arrested, I got a photo of. Yeah.
Okay. So now he's walking out, and there they go. There they go. All right. So now, glad y'all got to see that. So anyways, now we will switch on over. We're going to look at, let's see. Now we're going to see just some smaller clips from Candace's Cameragate show. Again, because she talks more in the context of why did Terrell do this? What all did he get? What has he said as far as, again, why he did it? And, at that time anyways, what he stated to her, according to her, his intentions were with these cards. Okay. And with that content. Had the police been told not to interview and basically stand down at that point? Yeah, I don't know what the police have been told. I saw some information the other day. I can't remember exactly where, but it kind of indicated that really it was Charlie's security was out there more or less running the scene, right? Which again is not what should have been going down, right? They aren't official law enforcement officers, duly deputized by the state of Utah or the local sheriff or anybody. To be honest, they should have also been excluded from the crime scene. I haven't seen anything in the manuals that would necessarily have allowed for that. And so to the extent that they were, I mean, I would, again, this is just me theorizing, speculating in a sense, but it seems to me like there was some type of pre-discussion or authorization for these people to do this. I don't see how else this chief of police and these other police officers would have allowed this to occur without there been some type of specific instruction or direction to allow this to happen. Again, just my opinion, but lest I digress. Let's see here. Let me do this. Okay.
Thing. Let's at first address what many people have been emailing me constantly, asking me, Kent, you got to look into this. You got to look into this. Look at these two strange men. We're going to refer to this as Cameragate. It's Cameragate. And I want to say this, shout out to all of the internet sleuths, the TikTokers, the YouTubers, those of you who are not playing around and you noticed this, because I did not in the beginning. But yes, as I said, there's an individual who is at first, in the moment just after the shooting, he's like up on the rocks near the car that Charlie gets taken away in while he's being carried away. Let's take a look at that footage actually first. So let's look at that footage. And don't worry, there's no gore in this episode. Difficult for me to even look at that sort of footage. Take a look. You can see Charlie's there. And
all right, so we're going to go ahead and speed it up. I just did that to kind of help you identify this is her Cameragate video, but we're going to move it forward to about the 7.5 minute mark, because that's where she really goes into her conversation with Terrell, et cetera, because that's really where we're going to be focusing on tonight, that information. So here we go.
And he is fearful for his family. He doesn't have any security and people are looking, and he said, look, as you can see in the footage, I was sitting right to the left or to the left of Charlie when Charlie got shot. And I instantly knew that he was not going to be okay. I instantly knew that he was dead. And I then, as you can see, people that are running, anybody that was in that zone, ran to the back, and he caught his breath. He wanted to check in with and communicate to other people that were working with and around Turning Point USA. That's why he's on his phone, communicating to them what had happened. That's what he told me. Then I asked, okay, well, what about this camera thing? Why would you grab the cameras? And he says, because the first thing that I thought is that I better secure the footage and be helpful and hand that footage over to the feds. Well,
okay, so right now, I just want everybody to kind of think and put yourself in that position, in the sense, do you think it was either in reality that's what he thought, or do you think it was reasonable for him to think that this was going to be helpful, something that was going to be beneficial or helpful to this investigation? Just ponder on that. We're going to keep going.
Obviously, that's where things get into a pickle with me, because we don't trust the feds, right? I'm like, no, we don't trust the feds. So we don't got to do that.
In a real quick caveat note, okay, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. I can understand why Candace, and even why, at the time, Terrell might have been, have a level of distrust in handing these things over to the feds. Now, again, it'll be up to you to discern whether Tyler or Terrell had that intention or belief. But I just want to say that let's not let that get in the way of what is proper under the law in the state of Utah, which again, in under normal crime scene processing rules, that this was not in accord with the normal policies and procedures for processing a crime scene. And trust me, if he were to get charged, right, and he came and his excuse was, well, I just don't trust the feds or trust law enforcement, it's, as we see when we get the statute, that's not going to get you any favors. So
just let me have the footage. I'm like, just send me the footage, please. Let me look at it. There's a lot of conspiracies that are floating around right now. People don't know what to believe. People are doing very, what I would say, credible videos. People that certainly have the credibility are ballistics experts that are saying that what we see in the front is an exit wound, not an entry wound. I don't know one way or the other because I'm not an expert. I'm getting inundated with messages from people that hunt, people that are in the military saying that this had to have come from another direction.
And so let's think about two real quick before we move on. Obviously, when the crime scene was paved over, and we've had other videos, and I'm sure y'all have talked about it elsewhere, obviously there was going to be some evidence, forensic evidence that was paved over that could have helped, again, with these ballistic analysis, things of that nature. So I just wanted to point that out, that, this evidence, the video, in my opinion, was very material evidence.
This footage could help. As if nothing else, let me help you. Let me formally debunk that by seeing this footage. Like, could you send this footage over to me? Well, he didn't want to send the footage over to me without checking with Turning Point lawyers. I said, look, technically, you.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is just a really big issue, right? So now we have very material evidence that has been removed from the crime scene, not in accordance with police protocol and procedure. And not only is Terrell not offering up to anybody, but apparently Turning Point's attorneys are being the gatekeepers of this footage. Very, very odd. I mean, I'll just let you know, at this point, and we'll talk about this too. In this video, I don't get the impression that this has been turned over to law enforcement at this time. And just so we know, Candace's video here was September 19th. So again, the event happened on September the 10th. Candace's video, September the 19th. And it doesn't seem from the tone of this that this footage had been turned over at that time. And so what are we essentially seeing is a refusal to directly share it with Candace, and some type of notion that gatekeeping is occurring with TPUSA's lawyers. I can just tell you, if I were a lawyer for TPUSA at that time and had Terrell Farnsworth ask me, I would have directly told him that he needed to turn that over to law enforcement just ASAP. Okay.
Own the footage, like you and some other people own the footage. Like, let me just see the footage, because why go through lawyers? Like, I just want to see the footage. And also I asked the question, why not just release it? We've already seen the worst thing that you could possibly see from the front, right? Like, the front is what is the traumatizing video. And I understand that he wants to afford his wife some protection. Like, this has, to experience that, Erica, so many people watching the love of your life in the last second of their life. It's traumatizing. I'm traumatized by it, right? That's not my husband and the father of my children. And so out of a loyalty to Erica, he also doesn't want to give more footage to the internet. But I said, look, I'm not going to publish it. I just want to see it. And I think you should let me see that, because people trust me. They know that I'm very serious about this. I don't care about anything right now other than figuring out who killed Charlie Kirk. So in the short run, he agrees that rather than send the footage, he will get onto a FaceTime call with me and he will show me the footage on his computer. He did that, and I watched the footage, and I'm going to tell you what I saw. And to the people specifically, the people that are in the military, people that know weapons, I'm telling you this because you might be able to add more color or more clarity here. What you would expect to see if given the weapon that they have said did this, the bullet they have said did this. I don't know anything about any of this, so I'm just telling you what I saw. Okay. First and foremost, there is nothing gory about this shot at all. And so again, I am still going to work with him to get me the footage so that I think it should be shared. There's nothing gory about this footage from the back. The thing that really stood out to me, and I just kept asking him to replay it over and over and over again, is that there's no blood. There's no blood from the back.
Okay, that's about all we, for our purposes. And so let me switch out real quick. So one thing I want to say about this particular clip from Candace, as far as our ultimate analysis at the end here, is, Terrell not only do we know now that in fact he did remove these things from the crime scene, but, if we believe that he actually put these things onto his computer, at the end of it, when we talk about, did he alter it? Was his intention to alter it? Things of that nature. This is my opinion and my assessment, the fact that he not only took them, but then downloaded or uploaded to his computer gets it further to the mark of he might have potentially done other things besides just upload the video. Okay. And again, I'm not stating that as a fact. I'm just saying inference wise, what facts are we working with to try to make these assessments, as we'll see towards the end. So I just wanted to point that out. Next, we're going to take a look. Let's see. Next up, we're going to look at a video from TPUSA. This was, I think, Andrew Colvett, Tyler Boyer. You'll see a comment on this screen. So Tyler Boyer weighed in on this. So this is going to be kind of, now we're switching over to evidence in support of Terrell Farnsworth's actions here, more or less, right? So we're going to try to get a full and fair collection of everything before we jump to the end and start doing an analysis under Utah statute here, okay? Okay, here we go. All right. All right. So, all right. Now I need to add to the stage. I need to make sure I share it. Okay. And so this is West Texas' The Best Texas video. He was able to capture this clip from apparently a TPUSA live stream talking about it. And so again, this is going to provide us with some more information as far as, did Terrell eventually share this? What were his motivations? Things of that nature. And I'm going to read this comment when we're done from Tyler Boyer in case some of y'all can't read it, just so that way we have, we want to make sure Tyler Boyer weighs in here, right? Because obviously all these people mean real well, and we want to make sure that they're all have their chance to speak in favor of Terrell before we go and start running our analysis under the statute. So let's go.
Lying, and it's corroded the trust. That's not their fault, actually. They're the victims
That's a
of
good
it.
point. Thank you for saying that.
They're, of course, bad actors who are doing it for clicks or whatever, but I guess, but there are far more people who love Charlie. They loved what he stood for. They feel like he was murdered by evil. They're absolutely right.
Okay, so real quick, right here at the bottom, the comment from Tyler Boyer states, quote unquote, "Dude didn't tamper with anything. The law enforcement officers asked them to turn over immediately so they didn't get lost in commotion before they took everyone into lockdown." Okay, so real quick, let's just discuss that, right? Because Candace's video was on September 19th, 2025. Okay. We had the event on September 10th. Okay. And we saw that day Terrell took the SD cards, the cameras, he took them. Okay. On September 19th, by that time, Candace had spoken with Terrell, and Terrell stated to her that he had not, my impression from what Candace was saying is that at that time he had not quite yet turned over to law enforcement authorities. So when we look at Tyler Boyer's comment, we get the impression there that he handed it over immediately. Okay. And if Tyler Boyer's insinuating that like immediately, like right there at the scene, well, we saw that didn't happen. Okay. And then if we're to believe what was told to Candace, or at least the way that she conveyed it, he had not turned it over by the 19th. And allegedly here and then so this video that we just watched for TPUSA was on or at least Tyler Boyer's comment was on October 2nd. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, by the time this October 2nd, I'm not real sure whether it had been turned over by then or not. And we'll see. I still don't know if it's really been turned over or not, but we'll talk a little bit more about that here towards the end. Next I'm going to play for y'all and some people might have seen this. It's really short clip. Okay. And it actually works out best because last night I did a short from the Wired, WIRED. Some of y'all might be familiar with that channel. And I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow going over several different points, but the video is like a debunking the debunkers, like an early debunking video. Okay. And in that video, they mentioned Terrell Farnsworth. And as you'll see, it says two things. One is that this was done 30 seconds. Okay. As we'll see, 30 seconds after the event. And then two, the terrorist attack comment. So let's just look real quick so that way you can see it with your own eyes, hear it with your own ears. And let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Interesting ones that happened in the 30 seconds after the shot rang out is that someone jumped up and grabbed the camera from behind Kirk and pulled that down. And I think it was obviously to try to stop the live stream and to make sure that if there was, like, God forbid, some kind of coordinated terror attack, you don't want them to be able to be watching what's happening on the ground while maybe they're laying in wait somewhere else on campus to shoot at students or what. Interesting ones that happened in the 30 seconds after the shot rang out is that someone jumped up and grabbed the camera from behind Kirk and pulled that down. And I think it was obviously to try to stop the live stream and to make sure that if there was, like, God forbid, some kind of coordinated terror attack, you don't want them to be able to be watching what's happening on the ground while maybe they're laying in wait somewhere else on campus to shoot at students or what.
Okay. So anyways, all right, let's remove that. Okay. So there we go. So that was, again, a small bit of, and again, we're going to cover this. Me and Adam Thomas are going to do a live stream tomorrow and cover that Wired video in some pretty good detail, but these are experts on internet disinformation. And this came out, I believe that video came out in like October, November. I'll know tomorrow when we show up for sure, but it was, maybe a month and a half or so after the event, and they're going through these quote unquote conspiracy theories to debunk them. And, I asked myself though, out of all the universe of things that this woman could have stated as reasoning for why Terrell Farnsworth did it, obviously she doesn't quote him as saying anything as to why he did it. She comes up with the notion that, live stream, there could have been a coordinated terrorist attack. And obviously this was done to protect everybody. Okay. And it was 30 seconds after the event. Okay. No. And if you saw the text on my short there, it wasn't 30 seconds. It was 5 minutes and 30 seconds, 38 seconds approximately to be exact. And so again, that kind of undercuts the notion that, you're doing a bunch of life-saving things here 5.5 minutes afterwards to shut down the stream because of a coordinated terrorist attack. Now, I then thought a little bit deeper about it. Okay. I thought a little bit deeper as to, well, why in the universe of things would she had said something of that nature? And let me just share real quick. Part of the manual. I want to show you something in the manual because I think the crime scene manual actually might give an indication as to why that reason, amongst others, was given. So let's see real quick. Let's get this. Let's see. Okay, so just going back real quick to the crime scene manual. Up here. So let me just find it real quick. So I just wanted to point it out because it might have some indication. Maybe I passed it up. Mm-hmm. Sorry, y'all. Apologize for not being able to pull that right back up. It is prevent individuals from altering, destroying. Anyways, what it says is basically, you want to secure all the evidence. Basically, it made an exception. It more or less makes an exception, here it is right here. Persons should not move any items, including weapons, unless necessary for the safety and well-being of persons at the scene. I apologize. It took me a second to get there. But yeah, so I saw that and I'm thinking, okay, and again, this is just me hypothesizing or speculating a little bit, but, pulling out of the universe that he's trying to stop some terror attack could have been an advanced move to try and justify the moving or removal of these SD cards from the scene for the purpose of, quote unquote, the safety and well-being of persons at the scene. Okay. So again, trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit, eventually being able to point and say, oh, well, under the crime scene, no harm, no foul here, right? Because, it was just to try to help, So anyways, because ultimately, right, whether, if this protocol and procedure was departed from and how great of a departure it is really reflects on Tyler Robinson's due process rights. What really the judge or the court can do in terms of alleviating any kind of due process concerns. And so again, I think that them trying to justify Terrell Farnsworth actions as much as they can under this crime scene manual would help play in favor of the state if this becomes, which it obviously should, becomes an issue in the trial court. Okay, so I hope that explains a little bit. Okay, so one more thing we're going to look at before we wrap it up and take a look at the statute, and that is going to be, and I've actually made it into a short. We're going to look at Paramount Tactical at Andrea. Here we go. Andrea Burkhart, the attorney that he had on. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And it's a short, so it's not a full episode or anything. It's just her explaining her thoughts on Terrell's, actions here.
Oh, camera. Should he have left it in the camera? Does it make the evidence inadmissible? Bothers many on X. Was he tampering with evidence when he did that? In your opinion?
I mean, physically removing it, if he's not like trying to destroy it or trying to conceal it or something like that, then no, he's not tampering with evidence. It is his property, and until law enforcement seizes it, legally and secures it, either because they have a warrant for it, that's a judge saying you're required to turn this over to me, or what happens far more often in a case like this where you have cooperative witnesses, they just agree to give it to you. He has the right to do whatever he wants with it. So it's not a legal problem in that sense. Where the issue, if there is any issue with this at all, comes up is with chain of custody. The fact that he took it into, his possession, didn't leave it in the camera, does that pose any sort of risk to the integrity of what is on that disk? I don't know offhand of any way that it would. I mean, if he's downloading it, editing it, I mean, whatever, there's going to be a digital record in the file, in the metadata associated, with the file. So again, most of this stuff in the digital arena can be accounted for if there's any type of issue like that.
That guy, so he by securing that, he did not commit a crime.
No.
Okay. So, and again, I wanted to make sure in this stream that I presented all the public information and commentary that I could find on it. Obviously, that commentary there was favorable to Terrell. We will discuss, obviously, some of Ms. Burkhart's comments in the context of the actual statute. Okay. And so, yeah. And let me just say this, I don't think whether you own the property or not is a relevant consideration. And we're about to look at the statute. And let me say this too, as a disclaimer, is I'm not an expert on digital forensic evidence like this, meaning that I can't represent to you, as she impliedly did, that if he edits it or modifies it or anything like that, that it wouldn't be known. Okay. Again, there could be, and this is just me theorizing, right? Couldn't he potentially have had that video, upload it to his computer, do something with it, then re-put it onto an SD card somehow and that not be caught forensically? And let me say this too real quick before we jump in. Chain of custody. Yeah, there is none. There is, I mean, sure, if law enforcement gets it back, they can start a chain of custody then. But the fact that this evidence left that scene not documented correctly under police procedures doesn't ever leave that video. Okay. Meaning that whether the prosecutor or the defense in the future wants to use it, the other side is obviously going to say that, oh, well, this, ladies and gentlemen, if it's admitted, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you saw this video, but let me tell you how that video came about, how law enforcement got possession of that, not from the scene. This thing came out of nowhere. And with that being said, let's look at the statute because it's going to also give us some insight into that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. And I know many of y'all might have been waiting to see this for quite some time. So this is the statute. This is Utah's tampering with evidence statute, right? And so I've made an outline here with the questions because as a non-lawyer, it could get a little confusing for people reading the statute. I mean, even me, to be honest with you, I had to read through it carefully several times, making this outline to make sure that, okay, am I getting these? Because when you have these ands and ors, okay, within the statute, that's when you have to really make sure logically, the LSAT, make sure everything logically is kind of matching up. So let's look first. Tampering with evidence as used in this section. So here's what the first question that we need to ask ourselves under this statute is are these SD cards and the camera that was removed from the scene at that time, does this fall or constitute an item of evidence, that falls under this statute? So as we see, 1A says, as used in this section, quote unquote, thing or item includes any document, record book, paper, file, electronic compilation, or other evidence. Okay. And so let's talk about that for a second. obviously electronic compilation, I think that probably would, the SD card, I think fits squarely within that definition. And, here we have the other evidence, which is in legal terms what I would consider a catch-all provision. And so, yes, I would say that the SD card specifically that we are discussing here obviously fits under this as evidence, which can be tampered with legally. Okay. Not that it's legal, but, legal sense. Yes, this is evidence that can be tampered with this statute. Okay. So the next question is going to be under 2A here. 2 says, an actor commits tampering with evidence if the actor, so here we're going to say, in Terrell Farnsworth committed tampering with evidence if Terrell Farnsworth, A1 here, believes that an official proceeding or investigation is pending or about to be instituted. Okay. So you got to ask yourself, based upon the circumstances that we saw in the video, everything that we know now, looking at everything, do you believe that Terrell Farnsworth either did or reasonably believe? Again, so let's give this instance. So what if Terrell Farnsworth said, I didn't know that an official investigation would have been about to be instituted? Okay, so that's the first question. I don't think, obviously, if he, based upon the statements of others, and I'll have to admit that, right, is that through statements of others, it seems that he has indicated that at the time that he took these, that he understood that there was going to be an investigation. Now, again, I think that goes without saying. I think any halfway rational human being in that circumstance would understand that, yeah, there's probably about to be an investigation going on. Okay. Probably about to be an investigation. And so the official proceeding, I don't think we really need to go that far here, because obviously, let me think about this for a second. What could have been that there, maybe, for instance, let's say Tyler Robinson didn't make it, right? Let's say Tyler Robinson would have unalived himself or gotten a shootout with police. In that instance, maybe there wouldn't have been some type of official proceeding afterwards, right? So, but at the time, for sure, I think it's reasonable to believe that there was about to be an investigation going on. Okay. Okay. So let's move to the next question. So again, I'm not going to answer that one for you in terms of Terrell Farnsworth. But I think y'all understand the framework for that analysis. But next, okay, so it can be so if Terrell did not believe that an official investigation was pending or about to be instituted, because this is kind of an interesting thing too, right? Is that, at the time there had been some movement, it wasn't really wasn't up to par, but there was some movement towards trying to investigate. Like there was some movement towards trying to cordon off the area and create a perimeter. And so, and I didn't go this deep in my research, but does that mean that there was actually an investigation pending under this law at the time? I don't think it's really matters ultimately, because regardless, about to be instituted. Yeah. When someone is unalived right there in front of you, from a source that's not immediately apparent to you, especially, yeah, I think it's reasonable that to think that he definitely believed that there was going to be a investigation pending or about to be instituted. But anyways, even if you don't get it there, that's okay. We move to 2. Or, okay, the actor Terrell Farnsworth intends to prevent an official proceeding or investigation. Basically, if Terrell Farnsworth removed these SD cards with the intention of preventing an official proceeding or investigation. Okay, and then we have one more. Or to prevent the production of a thing or item, okay, which reasonably would be anticipated to be evidence in the official proceeding or investigation. Okay, so we kind of got the 3 parts there, right? Either he believed that an official investigation was pending or about to be instituted, or he intended, to prevent, through removing these SD cards, an official investigation from being instituted. Yeah, sorry about that, y'all. Woo. Anyways, again, or intends to prevent an official proceeding or investigation, or he to prevent the production of a thing or item. Okay, so he either took it to prevent having to produce it in the investigation. He took it to prevent the investigation in and of itself, or he took it believing that an investigation was pending or about to be instituted. Okay, so under this statute, if you were to find one of those three as a jury, right, that would it would be in there. Okay, so again, I'm not going to answer those analysis for you, and when I get done here, I'll go through the comments and we'll come back real quick to this and see what y'all say about it. But I want to flow through it just so we don't get like hung up too bad. So anyways, okay, so here we go. So here is the word and, ladies and gentlemen. And so if you found for yourself in the affirmative on one of these that, and I'll just run through it one more quick time, that he believed an official investigation is pending or about to be instituted, or if he took the SD cards intending to prevent an official investigation, okay, or to prevent the production of the SD cards, which would have reasonably been anticipated to be used as evidence in the official proceeding or investigation. Okay, and I think that last part, pretty well established in what we looked at, right? That these SD cards and the content on them would have, obviously it would have been material in the investigation, right? In the proceeding or investigation. And then knowingly or intentionally, okay? So this really goes to what did he do with these, right? So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he absolutely removed them. That's been pretty firmly established. And I think it's been pretty firmly established that there is an official investigation pending or about to be instituted. And so, knowingly or intentionally alters, destroys, conceals, or removes a thing or item with the purpose of impairing the veracity or availability of the thing or item in the proceeding or investigation. Again, this is a very confusing statute. Just, it confuses me too. So I'm trying to stay as firm as I can on here and help y'all through it. So, and I broke it down. So do you think he knowingly or intentionally altered it? Do you think he knowingly or intentionally destroyed it? I don't think he destroyed it, right? Because obviously he showed it to Candace. So obviously it was on his computer. He obviously had something to show to Candace. And so I don't think right now, based upon the stuff of public evidence, that it would be that he destroyed it. Conceals it. So did he knowingly or intentionally conceal it with the purpose of impairing the veracity, right? So impairing the truthfulness. The way I read this is that with the purpose of impairing the authenticity of it, okay? And again, so the way I'm kind of reading into this is, did he remove it with the purpose of impairing the authenticity of it? So in what I just described, is that in some sense, in my opinion, just by simply removing it outside of the normal course of police processing of the scene, that in of itself impairs the veracity, just in the sense that there's no solid chain of custody, and that can always be brought up in challenge to the authenticity of that SD cards. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? But with that being said, did Terrell Farnsworth know that at the time? Did he know and understand that doing that would have that effect on the piece of evidence? I don't know that, and I'm not going to speculate on that, but just wanted to throw that out there for you. That's just the way I'm reading the statute again. And so, but it goes on. So let me not stop there. Or the availability of the thing or item in the proceeding. So impairing the veracity, okay, with the chain of custody, right? That's pretty firm that it's going to have that effect, in my opinion, right? Because now this chain of custody can always be contested. And, regardless of whether later on the forensic people say whatever's turned in looks good, like it hasn't been altered or edited, there's always going to be that, well, you can never say 100% for sure because the police did not document and take the original SD card out of the machine and see everything that was originally on there, right? So again, did he do it with the purpose, and it has to be knowingly or intentionally. So we don't know enough inside of Terrell Farnsworth's head, in my opinion anyways, even kind of based on the evidence that we have. And I mean, we could probably go through it, right? And really, if this was a real prosecution, obviously it would be a very, very intricate and detailed analysis of all these different parts. If Terrell chose not to testify, that would be his prerogative. But anyways, yeah. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say that he violated the statute 100% because I just don't feel like I have enough to know that. But, looking at it, did he do it with the purpose of impairing the availability? Well, I mean, let's say this is that he certainly has, through what he's done, from our understanding, he has impaired the availability of it. Law enforcement sure doesn't, or at least at this time, from our understanding, when Candace spoke, they didn't have it. It sucks that we're in the dark about everything. We haven't heard anything confirmed from law enforcement that they have it. And quite frankly, judging by the tone of Andrea Burkhart's statements, it didn't seem like she indicated that he had handed it over either. So again, in that, yeah, he has kind of impaired the veracity or the authenticity of the object, and he certainly has impaired the availability of it. He certainly did, from what my understanding of this evidence, remove it from the scene. But again, it all kind of goes back to the point: did he knowingly or intentionally do it? Okay, but then again, you got one more here. There is one other way in which he could have violated the statute, and that's whether he knowingly or intentionally presents, or uses a thing or item which the actor knows to be false with the purpose of deceiving a public servant or other party who is or may be engaged in the proceeding or investigation. And so the way I read this is that, just in this instance, hypothetical, for instance, if he were to submit, false or doctored SD cards, right? For the purpose of deceiving the investigators, the court, in the investigation or proceeding. Okay. So again, I don't know. Has he officially turned it over? There seems to be mixed messages out there, whether that's true or not. We don't know that. Or at least I don't feel like I know it. Okay. That doesn't mean y'all are free to believe what you will. I don't feel like I know that. So yeah, anyways, that's kind of a more detailed breakdown than Andrea Burkhart got, but and this isn't to say anything bad about Andrea per se, but from what I'm looking here, the statute really doesn't care about whether you own it. It certainly doesn't require that some court order, like, seizure order or whatever, require you to turn it over. I mean, I guess I can understand why she might have mentioned those things, but, in terms of the actual statute, because Gary was asking her pretty directly whether Terrell had violated this law or not. And I don't think, it was helpful, just in my opinion. Again, I don't know how helpful it was for the public to bring up those things when, in this statute, it's not something of direct concern. Now, sure, whether he owned it or not, perhaps for a jury would be material in assessing whether he, it could be evidence tending to negate this knowingly or intentionally. Or having some other improper purpose, but again, not directly tied into the, laid out in the statute, might we say. And just real quick, we'll end on the statutory analysis. It says, except as provided through a violation of subsection 2
So again, this would be subsection 2 here, everything we just kind of went into depth on. And I apologize if my analysis was a little confusing. This is a little bit of a confusing statute, and maybe we can assess it out a little bit more in comments. But anyways, a violation of subsection 2 is a Class A misdemeanor. Okay. A violation of subsection 2 is a third-degree felony if the offense is committed in conjunction with an official proceeding. And so I thought about this before the show, right? What's really that? What would be the circumstances in that? And so what I figured is that the Class A misdemeanor, I think, is for when people just remove something from the crime scene, right? In the moment, right then, either an investigation has occurred or it's about to be pending. But afterwards, once the court case starts up, okay, once the actual court filings are done and the case starts up, and then you start tampering with evidence, that is when the third-degree felony kicks in. And so at this point, this is just by way of example, I would say that like if Terrell were to turn over SD cards now that the official proceeding has begun, that would probably be when this subsection B, 3B, would kick in and could potentially be a third-degree felony. Okay. Again, that's my reading of the statute. I'm not a Utah defense lawyer. I'm licensed in Texas. I do practice in a lot of different states. But anyways, just wanted to make that there. And again, this is not legal advice or anything of that nature, right? I'm definitely not advising. Let me tell you what I would not advise you to do. Okay. I'll tell you what I would not advise you to do, what Terrell Farnsworth did. And that's not because it's necessarily illegal per se. I'm not saying that to like shoot back on him that what he did was illegal. It just, look, in many cases, you might have got tackled, you might have got tased, man, you might have got shot, just depending on the circumstances there. In another instance. So that's why I just encourage people to be careful. Let me face towards the camera now that I'm back here. And so what I'm going to do is pull my all right, so let's see. Let's go through some of the comments, y'all. And thank y'all for everybody that's been here and supporting me tonight. Thank y'all. And if you haven't already, please like. If you haven't subscribed, everything be very helpful. Before we jump into the comments, let me make the declaration that when I shifted from covering the Epstein stuff, right, back into doing this TPUSA stuff, like my subscriber count started to climb again. I was like, during the Epstein phase there for about a week, it just dead stopped. I fluctuated up and down 1 or 2. And then finally, when I switched back over. So anyways, that does not mean that I'm done with the Epstein files. Obviously, it's something very, very important issue for our country. I will for sure continue to cover it. Just wanted to switch back here for a little while. And so just want to let y'all know that. But thank you for everybody for the support. My studio downstairs is pretty much complete. I have a desk on order from Amazon. We got the decorations and stuff coming in, so we'll be switching over. Anyways, let's jump into the comments here. All right. And I'm going to go up just as far as I can, y'all. I know there's been a lot of comments, so I'm going to try to get as many as I can within reason. Oh, we pulled a Baron. There we go. Oh, you can show them here. Let me do this. Just so it's easier for me, I'm going to put all right. This will make it a little bit easier for me to actually look at the comments and talk to y'all at the same time. A little more comfortable. All right. And I apologize about the Baron move. Let's see. I think Butch is feeding information. Elena, the way they handled the crime scene is utterly crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's and again, Elena, I don't know you obviously or your career, but I would assume you're not a 20-year crime scene technician. It doesn't take one to understand what went on there with regards to the crime scene. Is, in my view, in my opinion, it's really unacceptable. But thank you, Elena. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Just noticed they had already moved the other camera by. Yeah, they did. They sure did, Sally. They moved the camera behind him. They actually took it down, and then, from my perspective, what we saw was him remove the SD cards from it, and then the front camera. I didn't see him remove it, but we did see him take the SD cards. And so, one other thing I thought real quick was like, he could say, hey, I have these really expensive cameras and I didn't want to leave them out there to get stolen. All that would have been a very valid reason for wanting to, but still, had that scene been handled correctly, there would have been a police there cordoned off, documenting everything. They could have and should have gotten the technicians in just ASAP to, again, process the camera, take the SD cards, and he could have gotten his camera in a probably a fairly decent, amount of time, and left with them no problem. But again, it would have needed to be documented, pictures, check on and off, all that stuff. And so none of that happened. And yeah, he did. He removed the back camera. How far away is the nearest police station to the university? That's a good question. What I did not know, obviously they were on campus, and so and I apologize, I don't have the map in front of me. I don't know if there's obviously a police station on campus. I don't know how close it was to that actual scene, and I'm not aware of how close the police, like the actual Provo police station is. I guess I could look it up online. Let me. Okay, so it says about 5.7 miles is from what I'm looking at here is Provo Police Department to Utah Valley University, 5.7 miles, approximately 10 minutes. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's see. Miracle, someone walked with a wheelchair. Let's see. You think this will be shown in court? It should be, right? At least in regards to the, if they have this preliminary hearing, and in my opinion, if Tyler Robinson's defense team asserts what they should, yeah, this should be played in court, right? And again, it's all kind of funny because we don't really know whether that evidence on those SD cards is good for the state or good for Tyler Robinson. Now, we can assume by the cops letting happen what did that it probably isn't good for them, and then we also have the contrast with how they treated the rooftop. So, with all those circumstances considered, I would assume that the evidence that was paved over, that was allowed to leave the crime scene, is probably not good for the state. And so with that being said, when Tyler Robinson, if they had that preliminary hearing come, I think in early May, then, Tyler Robinson's defense team, if they're trying to lodge an appropriate due process challenge, yeah, they're going to want to show the judge about why this evidence, okay, can't be trusted. But again, and I'm even tripping over myself here, right? Because if the evidence is, and there's two distinguished, here's what I need to say about that. There's two distinguishing things we need to distinguish, and that's one, the evidence that was destroyed and paved over, or that was trampled over and destroyed through the people walking through and destroying the crime scene, that right there would be the subject of a due process challenge by Tyler Robinson, presumably saying that, hey, this evidence, a reasonable probability that it would have been exculpatory, tending to show my innocence. Again, we don't have enough information to know if that's actually the case or not, unfortunately, but let's just presume that is. Yes, for the evidence. And so you would want to play this video. Now, With regards to Terrell Farnsworth taking the SD cards, under most normal circumstances, that would really just go to weight, meaning that if that evidence is going to come in, the fact that it was tampered with, removed by Terrell Farnsworth and all that, it would really go to the weight, meaning the jury would be informed of the life cycle of this thing, how it was acquired, et cetera, et cetera. And that would go to weight. Okay. So playing this video in court would really be in the context of a hearing to, challenge either the admissibility or the weight given to the evidence on the SD card. And then obviously it could also be played too in terms of if there's thought to be physical evidence that was destroyed during the course of the people, any destruction above and beyond, okay, what was done through the pave over job. Again, with the pave over job, with that whole thing, it really just the picture of them paving it over, the fact that they paved it over would really be all the evidence you would need to, establish that that occurred more or less. Elena, had the police been told not to interview and basically stand down at this point? Well, that's a good question. I mean, we don't know that. I haven't heard that come out into the facts anywhere. But God, I mean, if we're judging just by the conduct of the police at the scene at that time, it seems so. It really seems so. And as I stated at the beginning, looking at that really gives me concerns that if there is a more overarching conspiracy, man, that gives me concerns about the nature and depth of that thing. The fact that this whole police force, both uniform and plainclothes, were more or less yielding to private citizens, bystanders, essentially. Well, I guess they were witnesses too, but still, when we looked over the handbook the other day, they didn't fit within the class of individuals that should have been there, right? Because even the handbook says that, even police officers that aren't working the scene need to step down, need to get out of there. So if they're not supposed to be there doing anything, how was Terrell Farnsworth and these other security officers there doing stuff? Okay, Elena's saying that there is, I wasn't sure when that was told to the police. There's a recording from dispatch saying FBI told them not to interview. Oh, that's interesting. And now that you say that, I might have heard that too. I'll look into that and I will follow up and circle back with it. Thank you. Someone said they were still in active shooter mode. I might be slow, but they just clicked for me. Terrell said he took it down so Erica wouldn't see it. Oh my, hold on, dude. Elena, let me know where you saw this. This is interesting. Terrell said he took it down so Erica wouldn't see it. And again, how does that make any sense? And I'm not saying you're that you're lying here, Elena, but if that's true, it was 5.5 minutes after the incident. You know what I mean? It's 5.5 minutes afterwards. Like, what would be of concern there left for her to see? See what I mean? What would be of concern there left for her to see at that point? And in consistent with other, what I'm going to say, excuses or explanations that they've given, they just don't make any sense. They are inconsistent mostly. And, but that's for y'all to take in this context of Terrell. If you feel that some of these excuses or explanations are inconsistent, well, then that's for you to take, for you to go and assess the weight when it comes to that knowingly or intentionally part of that statute that we talked about. Rick says, I'm sure authorities will be checking if it's been altered. Yeah, they will. And here's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that, regardless whether the state wants to use that evidence or the defense wants to use that evidence, now that it's been, I'm going to say tampered. When I say tampered, doesn't mean necessarily that it was, illegally per se, but it's been removed from the scene by Terrell Farnsworth. And even Andrea Burkhart's comments give credence to this, is that it's going to have to be examined forensically. Okay. And that's going to cost money, but guess who's going to have to pay for that? Now, Terrell Farnsworth should have to pay for it, but in my opinion, if it were me, I wouldn't trust him to hire the expert. One of the defense of the state's going to have to hire an expert. They're going to have to pay probably thousands of dollars to have a forensic expert look over that evidence before it can even be admitted. And again, even then, it can still be challenged as to authenticity and go to the weight. Let's see. Front camera may have shown much more. Let me see. Okay, Sally Buchanan says, you see a UVU police officer knock over a camera on the UVU review footage. It's at 10:33 to 10:50. I find it hard to believe a law enforcement officer told Terrell to remove the cards. I haven't seen that, Sally. I'll see if I can find the UVU review footage. So I wonder if that was one of so the only camera left would have been the front camera that they could have knocked over. I wonder if that's what you're talking about. Anyways, thanks for chiming in, Sally. Appreciate it. May have been copied prior to ruined over. I'm not sure what you mean there, Rick. Rick says, honestly, I would have copied the SD cards. I mean, I'm sure he did. He shouldn't. Okay. Then Elena says he shouldn't have had the option to copy them. They should have immediately been in police custody. Yeah, no doubt. 100% with Elena. That should have been immediately taken into police custody. And that's per the DOJ handbook. And every police officer I've spoken with that's knowledgeable on the subject, that should have never been in his hands. Sure, he should have stuck around to get his camera back. I mean, sure, that, but, it shouldn't have been him grabbing the SD cards and grabbing the camera. It should have been the cops documenting every step of turning the camera on and off, opening the camera up, removing the SD cards, again, documenting, taking pictures the entire way. And then once they were satisfied that per their protocol, everything had been done, then the cameras should have been handed back to Terrell Farnsworth. And as far as getting copies of the footage, I mean, at that point, what you have is evidence of a crime. And my impression would be that it would be up to the prosecutors at that point, whether they want to hand it over or not. Yeah, I don't know that for sure. But again, I think the baseline is that it was improper what happened. Camera to the rear and left of Charlie definitely went over 35 seconds after the shot. Okay. Sally, I see you said the camera definitely went over 35 seconds after the shot. Well, sure it did. I mean, I would assume if it was going at the time of the shot, obviously after the shot, Terrell immediately went to the back. And he was there. So it was 19 seconds. They went back there. He was back doing the video. So he was there around the 30, 45 second mark. He didn't come and remove that camera till 5.5 minutes after the shot. So yeah, it would have been rolling the whole time. Moonshot, absolutely. Yeah. So if we look at, there was no urgency. So again, this is my opinion based upon what I see. This whole notion that there was some urgency to take it down for whatever reason, safety, Erica's seeing it. I don't buy it myself. And yeah, I don't buy it. And I think when we heard TPUSA's thing, I think the argument was that he was doing it so that way it could be saved and turned over to police. I don't buy that because as we see at the scene, it wasn't turned over. From what we hear from Candace, it wasn't turned over then either. And again, I'm unsure at this point whether it has been turned over. I'm unsure now whether it's been turned over. I wish that I wish the the prosecutor. I wish they let us know if it, at least let us know officially whether it's been turned over or not. That would be nice to know. That's why the officer was hiding a gun out from his body. Okay, let's see. So Elena has chimed in. He obviously had to know there would be an investigation. Okay, so again, court of public opinion. Obviously, Elena's of the belief that it would not be reasonable if I'm taking Elena's comment here to heart that he would not be believable to Elena if he said, hey, there's no way that I knew, or I did not know or understand or believe. I think the statute says at that time that there was either an investigation or one would have been underway, in pronto. Yeah, me personally, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. But again, we're just two people out here, public opinions on it. Ultimately, whether, Terrell violated that statute would be up to a jury of his peers. So I just want to make that clear. Let's see. Okay, so Moonchild, even if Farnsworth, was out of compliance with the statutes, wouldn't the onus fall on the officers on scene? Well, okay, yeah. I mean, meaning that ultimately, whether Terrell Farnsworth is criminally liable, really in the grand scheme of things, ladies and gentlemen, is irrelevant in many ways. I mean, obviously, we want to see people held accountable. Obviously, what we saw happen at the scene, in my opinion, is heinous as far as how the crime scene was handled. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, if we want to point fingers and be upset and point like ultimate blame, yeah, I agree. We should be looking at the police officers, right? They allowed that to occur. They certainly did. They should be the ones receiving most outrage. And so with that being said, let's not harass Terrell, right? Let's not harass, like Candace said, please don't harass him, stuff like that. I'm not sure what his intentions were. But in any event, if we're going to be upset, let's focus it on the people who are ultimately responsible there. And that, at least from what I saw at the time, ultimate responsibility would go on the chief of police at UVU, if indeed that was the guy who tapped the microphone and was sitting right there when all of it happened. Wow. Let's see. Thank you, Elena. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you, Virgo. Thank you. So Sharakatare. Man, I hope I'm saying that. And thank you for all your support, by the way. I wish someone would start a GoFundMe to hire this lawyer to do a FOIA on the Asian cop's body cam footage, because he looks over Charlie when he is down. Oh, incredible. Wow. Thanks for that little thing. Okay. Hey, I might look into drafting that FOIA request. Let me think about that. Thanks for the heads up. Let me know and I will donate 200 cash. If I do it, I'll obviously do it, for no charge. Much appreciated. But yeah, let me think and look at that tonight. And yeah, we very well might do it. Open records request. You'd think it would be standard procedure to cease all cameras in a capital crime. Yeah, well, it's the way I'm kind of taking what I've looked at as far as the manual and procedures, again, is that immediately don't turn anything on or off, because you don't want to erase data or, turn on a camera and, I don't know, film something or not. But anyways, that's what they say. Don't do anything immediately. But, if the scene would have been, followed up on, secured appropriately, probably so. I mean, I think the ultimate objective, yes, would be to get all the cameras off, grab whatever digital recordings you can, get them secured, and get them into an evidence bag and get them out of there. That's what I would propose. But yeah, I think it's probably also very situational. Hey, Elena, she is not a crime scene technician. I'm a wildlife artist, writer, and teacher. I love it. Wildlife artist, huh? That's pretty incredible. Let's see. We forgive you, Greg, Barron, and others like Coach. Yeah. And so, y'all, tonight's the first time I've done a live where I'm sharing videos and stuff. So I apologize if it was kind of not super professional and fluid. I will get better. I'm committed to practicing, obviously, and getting better over time. And so thank y'all for bearing with me and showing me support. It's very, very meaningful for me. Thank y'all. Let's see. Sharakatare. How much money would an average lawyer charge for a FOIA request? $5,000? I mean, look, if and in this instance, normally there would be, and I'll look it up, but I think there's probably some type of local procedure with the police station there, and it's probably under Utah records request law. As a matter of fact, I think I've heard of other requests being sent to like the university early on, wondering about the paving over and stuff. And then also I think they asked for records and maybe got some in regards to like the planning process for TPUSA and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you're always in my comments. Thank you very much for the support. Don't let me forget about it. I'll look that up. And, again, if we can identify, and another thing too is I'll need to be able to give as much identification as I can about the situation, officer and stuff. But if we can do it, I don't mind submitting it. You don't have to pay me. I mean, $5,000. So a FOIA request, if it's just a simple request that's actually responded to appropriately, it shouldn't cost much of anything at all. Now, if a lawyer has to go to court and get the court to order it, that's where it might cost $5,000. And in this instance, we might probably plan that it would require that. And obviously I'm not licensed in Utah. So sure, it could get to $5,000 in a perfect world. If it was just ask and respond, it shouldn't cost much at all, but we'll see. I'll let you know. Moonchild, this is a good. Pretty sure the Epstein and Kirk investigations are going to wind up touching each other. Man, there's some never mind. I'm gonna let that where it was. Just so y'all are aware, I was doing research the other day on the death penalty thing and figured out that the previous DA in Utah County had some pretty wild allegations levied against him. And it was in the context of a political battle between the current DA and him. And it was alleged that he and others are part of this like CST abuse and cannibalism ring, I think. And then I read another article where the investigators in Utah County allege that it's like a pretty common thing there, that like it's pretty like it's pretty deep there, the CST and abuse. Y'all can look it up online. If some of y'all are researchers and got an impulse, go look it up, because I was actually talking to Alley Top Files about this other day. When I saw that, started to make me think that, yeah, I think that the Epstein and this investigation in that paradigm, we're going to touch each other. So that's funny you say that. Yeah. He has lawyers in his family. Oh, you're talking about Terrell? Yeah, I think one of them's counsel. I think one of them is counsel for Tyler, if from my understanding. Virgo, Greg, what is your gut on Graff's TUE decision? God, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what you're referring to there, Virgo. TUE? Oh man, let me know. I'm just not quite clear on what you mean by the TUE, and it's been a long day. I'm sure if you told me, I'd be like, please excuse all the TRs guilty believers are giving for not releasing. Oh, the excuse all the people saying he's guilty are giving for not releasing all that is it would taint potential jurors. Yeah. Yeah, sure enough. Like, in the context of everything that we've seen, I think potential jurors being tainted. And obviously, we all know that, like voir dire, there's tons of different tools that the court has to, guard against tainted jurors. I mean, voir dire, change of venue, all of these things. And ultimately, at the end of the day, even if the jurors have seen the evidence and stuff like that in court and voir dire, they can certify that they're still willing to put it all aside and be fair and impartial. So, that argument in this instance is very, very weak to me. Very, very weak. And, the court always has to do these balancing acts. But I think here it's just public interest. So many people are looking at this with so much skepticism and like, this is not cool. And, with that being said, there's a very strong interest right now for them, in my opinion, to have this as public as possible and release as much as possible, because if not, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. Again, a tainted juror is going to be the least of their worries, in my opinion. I believe this involved BILT with military money, 7.5 million and more. Let's see. All right, let's see. Oh. Okay, yeah, Sally. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Y'all keep reference the BILT military contractor. Yeah, I kind of lost on that one. Okay, yeah, still okay. Oh, Virgo said Tuesday. So the Tuesday motion? We go back to where you were. I'll try to answer it. What is your gut? This upcoming Tuesday. Okay, it's going to be, if I'm correct, that Tuesday is going to be the 24th. There's going to be an online, if Tuesday's the 24th, I think it is. There's going to be an online, judge is going to render his decision online. Sorry, God, it's been a long day. I'm like TUE. I'm thinking like it's like a acronym or something. Tuesday. So on Tuesday, the judge is going to be rendering, and I think it's going to be online, his order decision on the motion to disqualify the prosecutor. I don't think he's going to rule. I don't think he's going to disqualify him. I don't think he is. Now, I think they absolutely do need to be disqualified, because let's remember this, ladies and gentlemen, and I said this in a video. I tell you what, before we let off, let me talk real quick about that due process analysis, because, here I just feel there's bad faith on the part of the prosecution. They were there that day, right? Because so the last hearing date that they had on the disqualification motion, the prosecutors admitted to being there that day. And, I showed that picture in my video. Hell, I'll show it right now. I still got it pulled up. Well, I thought I did. Hold on. Let me see something. Still got it pulled up. Here we go. So let me do this. I kind of like doing the live and being able to share like this live. I like this. So let's see. Oh, let me do this. Okay. So this is a picture I showed the other day, y'all. Obviously, this is, I think that's Cash Patel. I think that's Dan Bongino, but this looks to be people from the prosecutor's office. And they testified that they were there that day. And again, this is where, like I was saying earlier, all the focus is on this crime scene up here where, magically all the good forensic evidence for them apparently was found up there. Man, they had a lot of focus up there. It seems like they're, doing what they can to try to preserve that, or at least giving it an attention and analysis. I'm sure that if the suits were up there, that I'm sure those technicians, I would assume this is after the technicians came up there and processed everything. If it's a gravel roof, obviously they're going to want to, take very meticulous pictures and document before they even walk on it. But again, look at this. And so in Tyler Robinson's, if there's a due process challenge, again, if he's able to show that this evidence that was lost or destroyed would have been, that there's a reasonable probability it would have been exculpatory to show as innocent, then the analysis, right, will flip over. And then the judge will look at a few different things. But one of them is, is the way that this crime scene was handled, this evidence handling, was it, probably look at a spectrum. Was it negligent all the way to was this intentional bad faith? Okay. And depending where it falls on that spectrum, okay, will determine whether, the case, basically what kind of sanction, whether it's the case is dismissed, whether judge tells the jury, hey, look, this evidence that was destroyed, you're to believe, you're to assume that it would not have been good for the state. But another analysis, right, is how strong is the other evidence against, in this case, Tyler Robinson showing his guilt, right? Because if there's a lot of other evidence tending to show his guilt, well, then, the fact that some evidence that could have been exculpatory or a reasonable probability of exculpatory doesn't become as important. Okay. And so again, the fact that the prosecutors were there that day and obviously would have been aware of what was going on down there. Now, I don't know if they were there that early on. Okay. But if we look at some of the later photos, so let's just look at some of the later photos too. Hell, while we're here, I didn't have plans to do this, but hell, let's look at them. Because let's see. Because let's see. And so this definitely would have been later in the day. Hold on. Yeah, I'll just pick one. I mean, why not? I got a bunch, but let's just pick one as by way of example. Okay, so, here goes one here. And again, this is later in the day. Hey, how do I know that? Here you go, Baron. You see the shadow? Looks to me maybe, and I'm kind of speaking out of my ass a little bit, but it looks like it might be 2-3 o'clock. Anyways, I think there's enough shadow here to assume that, and I can't remember the prosecutor's testimony or off the top of my head, but if they hurried down there, which, hey, I think one of them's daughter was there or adult daughter was there, it probably hurried down there pretty quick. But anyways, if we're to assume that like by this time they were there, I mean, look at this. I mean, look, one little thing, I don't see any technicians here in this vicinity. It just doesn't look like a crime scene that's being adequately analyzed to me. Okay. And presumably this is on the same day. Again, I don't know that for sure either, but again, I think everybody can kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. To me, there's some bad faith on part of the prosecution. There just is. I just have a notion of bad faith on the part of both them and law enforcement. To what degree? I don't know, but I just have that gut feeling. And again, I think, and here's another, again, speculation for me. It surely is. I think the bad faith was before this even happened. If you get my drift, I think the bad faith, I think the lining up of what after letting these people trample all over the crime scene, do whatever that was. Whether it was telling them, hey, Charlie Kirk security and these people, they have free reign. They get to afterwards. They just kept, letting them. I don't know, but I just get a sense that there isn't, it's not straight up and down with that situation, right? I just get that feeling. Oh, hold on. Who's it? His name is Min J. Kim. He's also a lawyer who studied national security at BU. He's certainly in on it. So you won't get his body cam? Whoa. Vindicti. So are you saying that, are you referencing the Asian police officer whose body camera they were just asking about? And I assume you are, but I just want to, man, that's pretty, Min J. Kim. You say he's also a lawyer who studied nation security at BU? Hold on. So you're telling me someone who had possibly had some specialized legal knowledge and training that if anybody there, right there in that vicinity, knew what was up, he would have known for sure what was going on, wasn't right? Man, hold up. As we say in Texas, hold up, man, hold up. Let's see. The blocked roof access put it. What'd you say, Virgo? Wow, you kick out the prosecutor team for jurisprudence. Totally agree with you about a lot of bad faith that day. Yeah, man, I do, and I just, as a lawyer, and again, I'm no expert in criminal law necessarily or crime scene investigation. Before I really dove into the handbook here, most of my crime scene investigation knowledge had come largely from TV, to be quite honest with you, and watching documentaries, things of that nature. But then I watched, obviously read a bunch and watched some videos on, normal procedures and policies and did thorough review of that video. And yeah, it doesn't make sense to me in any way other than bad faith, and I'll say it again. I sense bad faith on Terrell Farnsworth part too. Now, again, that's not to say, hey, he's guilty of a crime, we should convict him, go. No. I just sense, me personally, based on all the circumstances and all the data and information at my disposal in my universe, yeah, I sense bad faith there too. I don't know exactly what what exactly was done, if any, and just because I sense bad faith doesn't mean he actually did something to alter the evidence, anything like that. But just the fact that he moved them so suddenly afterwards, I just don't get a sense that was done for the purpose of truly trying to find out who's behind what went on that day. Okay. So again, that's just my opinion, allegedly, right? So yeah. And that's it, man. Man, this went a little bit longer than I hoped. I think we peaked out at 40 something people. Super smitten. My technology did okay. I had one little seem like lapse there for a second, but seemed to work itself out. And so, yeah, I'm pleased. Thank y'all. I will. So just announcement moving forward this weekend. My really good friend, Adam Thomas, and I are going to do a live stream tomorrow. We're going to go through the larger Wired video about the early trying to debunk the conspiracy theorists. We're going to go through that live stream tomorrow. I'll publish a announcement sometime before noon tomorrow. And then Sunday, I'm going to be with another content creator on Sunday. I think most of y'all probably like her too. Let me just make sure she's good with me pre-announcing it. I didn't ask that before I was going to do that. But anyways, I'll let y'all know tomorrow for sure. Anyways, thank y'all very much. Just very, very grateful for the support. I feel I'm getting more and more comfortable doing this, and hopefully the quality of the production will steadily increase. I've been making investments in time and money in that direction. Hopefully within the week, I'll be out of this upstairs nook and downstairs in the studio. And yeah, looking forward to it. Anyways, thank y'all very much. Peace. Y'all have a good, blessed evening. And I will see y'all tomorrow. I'll be back with Adam Thomas. Can't wait. Peace.